Hey, welcome! Today we are going deep into a really important topic, unresolved grief. We're going to explore why some painful losses just seem to stick with us, and maybe more importantly, we'll look at the real evidence-based ways we can start to heal.
It's a question that, honestly, so many of us have asked ourselves. Most of the time, grief changes, it evolves. But sometimes, a loss can leave you feeling completely stuck, like that wound is just as fresh as day one. So, to really understand why that happens, we've got to go back to the very beginning, to the foundation of how we learn to connect with people in the first place.
So, yeah, where does it all start? Well, from the moment we're born, we start developing what researchers call an attachment blueprint. Just think of it like an internal roadmap. It gets built from our earliest relationships, and it pretty much guides how we form bonds and, crucially, how we handle emotional pain for the rest of our lives. And here's the key thing to get. For most of us, these strategies are actually really organized and they work. I mean, they're not always perfect, right? But they give us a consistent, predictable way to deal with all the ups and downs that come with being close to other people. The research lays out three main organized styles. If you have a secure style, you're generally comfortable expressing your needs. With a dismissing or avoidant style, the go-to strategy is often to push feelings down, to stay self-reliant. And then there's the preoccupied or anxious style, where you might find yourself hyper-focusing on a relationship to calm your own anxiety. See? Each one has a clear, coherent logic to it. But what happens when a loss is so traumatic, so completely overwhelming, that those organized strategies just shatter? Well, this is where grief gets stuck. This is where things can really go off the rails, leading to a whole different state of being. And that brings us to this critical concept, unresolved attachment. Now, this is not just another attachment style. You can think of it more like a total breakdown of our usual defenses. The very system we count on to manage emotional pain gets so overloaded that it just becomes disorganized. At the heart of this unresolved state is something researchers call failed mourning. And that definition you see, it's everything. The prolonged absence of conscious grieving. This isn't about being sad for a long time. This is a powerful defensive move where the entire natural process of mourning is blocked before it can even start. The grief gets walled off, totally cut off from your day-to-day awareness.
Okay, so this all sounds a little abstract, right? What does it actually look like in real life? How do these invisible wounds actually show up?
Well, the impact is huge. People might feel this emotional numbness, like they're just disconnected from everything. That can go hand in hand with a chronic depression or anxiety that seems to come out of nowhere. Relationships can become a total minefield, that classic push-pull of desperately wanting to be close to someone and then suddenly needing to get away. And simmering underneath it all is often this deep, heavy blanket of guilt and shame. The research has this incredibly powerful phrase to describe this defense, an impermeable shell of normalcy. And that just nails it, doesn't it? On the outside, someone might look totally fine, even like nothing's wrong. But that shell is working overtime to block access to their own pain, keeping them and everyone else from seeing the grief buried deep inside. Now, after hearing all that, it can sound pretty bleak, but I really want to stress this next part. There is so much hope. The research is absolutely clear that there are proven, structured ways to repair this fracture and move towards a feeling of wholeness again. So what's the goal? At the end of the day, it's about building up the internal resources that got shattered by that trauma or loss. It's about constructing a new sense of safety inside yourself, what we call an internal secure base, that finally gives you the strength to face what was once just too much to handle. One of the most powerful ways to do this is with attachment-focused psychotherapy. Therapies like this use the relationship you build with your therapist as a safe space to heal. In that trusting, professional bond, you can finally start to untangle and rework those painful old patterns you learned a long, long time ago. Another incredible tool is EMDR. That stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. This therapy is amazing because it goes right to the source, those stuck traumatic memories. It helps your brain reprocess them, basically taking the emotional charge out of them, which then allows that natural grieving process to finally get going again. You know, good grief therapy is kind of a dance. It involves this gentle back and forth between loss-focused work, where you safely touch on the pain of the loss, and restoration-focused work, which is all about reconnecting with life, finding new joys, and building a future. You need both. You have to look back to heal, but you also have to look forward to live. Now, outside of a therapist's office, the research also points to this really empowering tool you can actually use yourself to kickstart this healing journey. And it's all about turning inward with compassion and using the simple power of writing. Writing a therapeutic letter is, in a way, a form of reparenting yourself. By writing to that younger version of you who went through it all, your wise, capable adult self becomes the compassionate, protective person that you needed so badly back then. It's an incredible way to bridge that gap between your past pain and your present self. And there's a gentle structure to it that makes it feel safe. First, you pick an age and find a quiet, private spot. Then you adopt a kind, warm tone, no judgment. Really try to visualize that younger you. And here's the most important part. You acknowledge and validate all of their pain, all of their fear. And finally, you offer them the wisdom and reassurance that only you, their future self, can give. And somewhere in that letter, this might be the most powerful sentence you will ever write. It was not your fault. That one simple statement goes right to the heart of the deep, unspoken shame that fuels so much unresolved trauma. It's a foundational piece of healing. So, what's the big takeaway here? Healing from unresolved grief is truly a journey. It's a journey from feeling shattered and disorganized to feeling integrated and whole. It's about weaving a new story for your life, one that honors the pain but isn't defined by it. And when you do that, you transform that old pain into present-day wisdom and incredible strength. If anything we talked about today really resonated, if you feel like you're stuck in your grief, I just want you to know that there is absolutely a path forward. The experts at Edward Jenny and Associates specialize in these exact evidence-based approaches. They are here and ready to guide you on that journey from unresolved pain toward a more integrated, whole, and hopeful future.